Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to try to understand ByteDance, the company behind TikTok. I gotta say, my own experience with ByteDance pretty much starts and stops with those viral dance challenges.
Ah, I see.
Right? Like everybody knows TikTok. But I realized I don't actually know anything about the company itself. Like where they came from, what else they even do. So I'm really glad you're here today. You spent a lot of time with the tech world, really dug deep into companies like ByteDance. So I figured you'd be the best person to kind of guide us through this. And we're using the Wikipedia article on ByteDance as our main source here. Ready to get into it?
Absolutely. Let's dive in.
The first thing that really surprised me when I was looking into this was that ByteDance, they didn't start with short videos at all. It was real estate back in 2009.
Yeah, that's right. The founder, Zhang Yiming, he started off with 99fang.com, a real estate search engine. And, this was back before smartphones were really a thing. So 99fang was mainly a website. And China's internet, well, it was a whole different landscape back then, but it was growing like crazy. Tons of demand for info, new ways to find it.
It really is wild to think how much has changed, even in just, like 15 years?
For sure.
So how did they go from searching for houses to, global tech giant? What's the connection?
Well, you got to understand the core need, right? And how tech can meet that need. With 99fang, you kind of see the early signs of what ByteDance is all about, using data, algorithms to make things more personalized and efficient. Even then, they were thinking about how to connect people with information, but in a way that felt tailored, like just for them.
That's really interesting. So 2012 seems like a big year for them. That's when ByteDance officially becomes ByteDance, right? And they launched that first app, Nihantuanzi, which, if I'm saying it right, means what, profound gags?
You got it. Nihantuanzi was basically a place for sharing jokes, memes, funny videos, like think early days of what would make TikTok popular, that humor. And it blew up over 200 million users before it got shut down in 2018.
Wait, 200 million users? That's massive. What happened?
Well, that's where things get a little tricky. Chinese authorities stepped in, said some of the content was, quote, vulgar and improper, and they shut it down. Kind of shows you, even then, how complicated the relationship is between tech companies and the government in China. It's a factor that's, well, it's always been there for ByteDance.
Yeah, that makes sense. So while all this is going on with Nihantuanzi, they also launched Tuxiao, right? Same year, 2012. What was that platform all about? Why was it so important for ByteDance?
Tuxiao, that became their flagship product. And, even today, it's one of the biggest news and content platforms in China. What made it different was it really leaned into those big data algorithms to personalize what you saw. Totally different from like traditional news where everyone gets the same stuff. Tuxiao, it curated a feed just for you based on, what you liked, what you read before, all that stuff.
So they were already doing that back then.
Yeah.
That sounds way ahead of its time.
Yeah.
How did Tuxiao stack up against other news platforms?
Oh, it was definitely a game changer. Most others were still stuck in that old school editorial mindset, but Tuxiao, they went all in on personalization on a huge scale. A gamble, yeah, but one that paid off big time.
So even from the beginning, there's this pattern, right? ByteDance, they seem to really get what users want. And they find a way to give it to them, but in a way that keeps people coming back for more. They were doing incredibly well in China, but I get the sense they wanted to be bigger than just China.
Absolutely. By 2015, they're actively planning how to go global. Even had this plan laid out, included an English version of Tuxiao. And, this was when that whole app race was really heating up worldwide.
App race, what does that mean?
Think of it like this intense competition for like your attention, how much time you spend on your phone, right? Companies popping up everywhere, all fighting for a piece of that global app market. Downloads, engagement, video views, that's how you kept score. And ByteDance, well, they wanted to play in the big leagues, not just China, the whole world.
Makes sense. So how did they start to make that happen? Like, what were those first steps towards becoming a global company?
They started buying up other companies, strategic acquisitions, right? So in 2016, they bought Babe, Indonesian news app. Then 2017, they pick up Flipagram, US-based video sharing. Flipagram, eventually they rebranded it, kind of faded away. But those early moves show how ByteDance was playing the game. Enter new markets, get the tech, get the users.
But why buy an app just to, shut it down? What's the point of that?
Well, sometimes it's the tech behind the app that's valuable. They can take that, use it in other products, or maybe it's the users, that built-in audience. Or sometimes it's as simple as get rid of the competition. In the tech world, it moves fast. These buyouts, they happen all the time.
Yeah, that's true. It's a whole different world.
And then there's the one that really changed everything for ByteDance, the big one, musical.
musical.
Yeah.
That's the one that, like, set the stage for TikTok to go global, right? What was so special about Musical.ly, and why did ByteDance want it so bad?
Musical.ly, that was the app for those short lip sync videos, all the music stuff. Huge user base, mostly teenagers and all over the world, especially big in the US. And remember, at this point, TikTok, it was mostly focused on India.
So buying Musical.ly, that was their ticket to, like, the rest of the world.
Exactly. 2018, they merged the two apps, keep the TikTok name, and, well, you know the rest.
It's kind of crazy how fast they went from, like, unknown to everyone's using it. So they had the app, the users, but there was another piece, right? This AI stuff. The Wikipedia article mentions the ByteDance AI lab started in 2016. What was the deal with that?
That AI lab, that was a smart move. Showed they were serious about staying ahead of the game, tech-wise. They knew that artificial intelligence, all the machine learning stuff, it was going to be huge for making things more engaging, more personalized. That AI lab, they focused on the cutting edge, things like natural language processing, computer vision, all stuff that would end up being super important for TikTok's success.
So even before they had music, they were already kind of building the foundation for TikTok in a way.
Yeah, you could say that. They were already playing around with AI features, recommendations, even facial recognition, all that stuff that eventually would make TikTok so, well, addictive, right?
Sounds like they were on a roll. But I guess along with all that success comes the, well, the not so good stuff. The article talks about some legal battles with Tencent, another big Chinese tech company. What was going on there?
Those Tencent lawsuits, that was basically the giants fighting, right? Classic big tech rivalry. ByteDance, they accused Tencent of, like, playing dirty, trying to hold them back, said Tencent was blocking their content on WeChat QQ, which are huge in China, basically cutting them off from a massive audience.
So it was a fight for who gets to be top dog in China.
Pretty much. ByteDance also said Tencent was, using their profiles without permission, doing all this data scraping from WeChat. It got messy, accusations flying back and forth.
Did those lawsuits ever get resolved?
As of early 2024, they were still going on. One of the big problems was, like, which court even gets to decide jurisdictional stuff. These things, they can drag on forever, especially when you've got companies operating all over the place.
Yeah, sounds like a headache. And that wasn't their only legal issue, right? There was that lawsuit they filed against Huxiu, that Chinese tech news site. What was that about?
That one was about reputation. Huxiu, they published this report, claimed that ByteDance's news app in India, Hilo, was spreading fake news. ByteDance, they were furious, said it was totally false, damaging their reputation, took Huxiu to court over it.
So they were fighting battles on, like, multiple fronts, both inside China and internationally.
Yep. And even with all that going on, ByteDance, they just kept expanding. 2021, they buy Moonton, the company behind Mobile Legends. Bang, bang, huge mobile game. That deal was massive, something like $4 billion. Showed they were serious about getting into gaming, not just social media and news.
Wow, $4 billion. That's a lot of money. So it really was more than just TikTok. They had their hands in all sorts of things.
Exactly. And they already had this gaming division, Nuverse. They'd published some hits like Marvel Snap. But that Moonton deal, that really put them on the map, gaming-wise.
Clearly, ByteDance, they had big plans, a vision for growth and doing new things. But, we can't ignore the elephant in the room. All the concerns, all the controversy, censorship, surveillance, data privacy, that stuff. Maybe we should dive into that a bit more in the next part of our deep dive.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to kind of pick up. I mean, that's the stuff you hear about with ByteDance, right? The concerns, the controversies. Where do we even start with all that?
Well, I guess censorship's as good a place as any. We talked about Nihon Zhuangzi getting shut down, right,
Yeah.
by the Chinese government. That whole thing, it really shows you, ByteDance, they're playing by a different set of rules in China, where the government, they have a lot of say in what can and can't be on the internet.
So it's like they expect ByteDance to do what they say, take down stuff they don't like.
Pretty much. And it's not just limited to what's happening inside China. There's been a lot of reports, investigations even, claiming that TikTok, they've censored content globally. All kinds of stuff. Political protests, human rights issues, LGBTQ plus content. Seriously. Wow. That's kind of disturbing. What does ByteDance say about all this? They just deny it.
Yeah, they've always said, nope, no censorship outside of China. They say they operate independently, follow the local laws, that's it. But those accusations, they keep coming up. And it's led to a lot more scrutiny from governments all over.
Yeah, it's hard to know what's really going on,
Yeah.
Who to believe, when everyone's saying different things.
It is. And then you add in data privacy and surveillance, that whole thing. That gets even more complicated. There's been reports claiming ByteDance, they've been sharing user data with the Chinese government. And that's a big deal, right? It makes people worry about, is TikTok safe? Especially if you're not in China.
Yeah, it's kind of creepy, the idea that, like, someone's watching,
Yeah.
especially government. What's ByteDance's response to that?
Same thing. They deny it. Say they never share data with the Chinese government, that they've got all these strict rules to protect your info. They also say that data from TikTok, especially outside of China, it's all stored on servers outside of China. So it's not under Chinese law.
So it's basically their word against everyone else's.
Basically. And, that lack of transparency, it doesn't help. It just makes people more suspicious, more uneasy about what TikTok's really doing with all that data.
So are governments, like, actually doing anything about this? Or is it just talk?
Oh, they're taking it seriously. India, they banned TikTok and CapCut back in 2020, said it was a national security risk. And that ban, it became permanent in 2021. That was a big hit for ByteDance. India was one of their biggest markets.
And what about the U.S.? I know they've been looking into TikTok for a while now.
Yeah, the U.S. government, they're worried about that data sharing, too. Back when Trump was president, they tried to force ByteDance to sell TikTok to an American company, but the court stopped that. Then Biden comes in, same concerns. Now there's talk of new laws, maybe to regulate or even ban foreign-owned apps like TikTok.
So it's like TikTok might not even be around in the U.S. in a few years.
It's possible. And it's not just the U.S. Australia, the EU, they're all investigating ByteDance and TikTok.
Feels like the walls are closing in. What do you think happens next? What are, like, the possible outcomes of all this?
It's hard to predict, really. There's a lot of political stuff happening behind the scenes. Maybe ByteDance has to make some changes, to keep everyone happy, like be more open about how they handle data, tighten up security, or maybe some countries do ban TikTok like India did. It's high stakes, that's for sure. Nobody knows how it's going to end.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about. Really interesting, but also kind of scary.
I get it. ByteDance, it's a complicated story. And they're operating in this global world where things are changing all the time.
Before we go, I'm curious about ByteDance's other stuff. Besides TikTok, I mean, they do a lot more than just that one app, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They've branched out big time. Their video editing app, CapCut, that's a huge success. Super popular, especially with younger people. Then there's Douyin, basically TikTok, but just for China. Totally separate app, different content, all focused on the Chinese market. And then there's Lark. That's their suite of productivity tools, like their version of Google Workspace. Started as something they used internally, but now they're selling it to other companies, competing with the big boys.
So they're trying to be like a major player in all these different areas of tech, not just social media.
Seems that way. And they've even started making hardware. They've got this smart lamp in China. It connects to their education apps. Interesting move, right? Shows us thinking about like how to bring their software and real-world products together.
Wow, they really do have big ambitions.
They do. The question is, can they make it work with all the challenges, all the controversies?
Well, this has been super informative. Thanks for walking us through all this. I learned a lot about ByteDance and, well, just the whole tech world in general.
Happy to help.
And to everyone listening, I hope you found this deep dive as interesting as I did. It's a wild story, right? Innovation, ambition, controversy, uncertainty. It all comes together in the world of tech, in this globalized world we live in. And ByteDance, they're right in the middle of it. What happens to them, it raises some big questions about our data, about censorship, about the role tech plays in our lives. The story's not over yet, so it'd be interesting to see what happens next, what it means for all of us. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.